Hello there, dear listeners, and welcome to episode 4 of the Hounds of Hübschdorf. You're probably wondering what the deal is with those missing dogs and that scare with the remnant from the last episode, so we won't keep you waiting for too long. Make sure to grab your umbrella because this episode is almost an hour long and contains 3 chapters. Gathering Clouds, A Night of Storm and Stew, and no, that's not the title of a spicy romance novel, and Morning Mist. This version of the Hounds of Hübschdorf is the standard edition, which everyone can enjoy for free. It is complete, but there is an extended edition of this story available on Bandcamp and on Patreon. This edition contains extra chapters from other characters' point of view and is an hour longer. You can join our Patreon community as a free member from $1 on. That's only like buying Elin a new tea mug. She got a nice one from one of our patrons and she's so very sad because it broke. And when Amazon sent her a new one, it was damaged as well. Also, we do need a lot of tea to keep us going. Even if you can't spend any money at the moment, we are really grateful for the likes and comments, for subscribing, for your reviews on Amazon and Goodreads, and your wonderful encouragement and shares on YouTube, Podbean and social media. And of course, we thank you so much just for listening and joining us on yet another epic audio journey. I wanted to give a spontaneous shout out to Bluefax. He made an incredible adaptation of The Hobbit, which I believe is no longer online, but there is still plenty of amazing stuff on his YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out yet, I recommend you do so. The guy is a wizard with sound. Also, check out The Gothic Horror Guy. He's a patron of ours and the creator of the short horror film The Beast of Gévaudan, which I'm sure you'll appreciate if you like witch hunters. So as you can see, there are many things to check out while you wait for the next episode after this one. But hey, I get it. I'll shut up now so you can listen to the 4th episode of the Hounds of Hübschdorf. Gathering Clouds. The sky above Hübschdorf was darkening. Thick clouds hovered over the village like floating mountains of grey rock, heavy with the promise of rain.
Garner, I want you to seek out Moritz and Victor,
Ludlov said, as he strode angrily towards the mayor's mansion, with Garner and Tolfmann following closely behind but barely able to keep up.
They are to seal off that kitchen door so that no one can enter it. Tolfmann, come with me. Of course, Master Ludlov,
Garner said.
But I have to ask you.
Ludlov stopped and turned to look at him with an annoyed and impatient expression. Tolfmann followed his example.
What? What is it, Garner?
Before you go to the mayor's, Master, there's something I'd like to know if you don't mind.
Tell me.
That remnant in the kitchen. What did it look like? Was it someone I knew?
Ludlov sighed and his shoulders sagged as he suddenly became aware of his own lack of consideration. Tolfmann's expression softened as well.
I'm sorry, Garner. I should have told you earlier.
The man held his breath and bit his lip as he awaited Ludlov's words.
It was wearing a guard's uniform. My guess is...
It was Roland then,
Garner said.
That's Roland in there. He was the last of the guardsmen to disappear.
He shook his head in disbelief.
I'm sorry, Garner. Bastards.
Garner breathed shakily, tears welling up in those strange eyes of his. They seemed almost luminous, like a dog's eyes in the dark.
You understand now why I want to see the mayor,
Ludlov said.
This cannot go on. Not for another moment.
Garner swallowed and nodded.
I understand, Master. For what it's worth, Garner,
Tolfmann said gently,
I don't believe that this remnant is your friend. It's not his soul, I mean.
Tolfmann is right,
Ludlov said.
Roland has passed on. That thing is just his body, a vessel animated by another force.
A force that has no business desecrating his remains!
Garner suddenly shouted. An old woman walking down the street gave them an alarmed look. Tolfmann offered her a friendly smile, but she still quickened her pace and gave the three men a wide berth as she passed them by. Ludlov waited until she was gone and Garner had calmed down a bit before he responded in a low, gentle voice.
You're right, Garner. You're right. Roland deserves a proper burial. His body belongs to Hruda now, to be offered up to the goddess.
He laid his hand on Garner's shoulder.
Seek out your friends. Board up that kitchen door and fix the panel where the dogs are hiding. We don't want those cultists to discover them. And then it's time to put an end to all this.
Aye, master,
Garner said, his face hard with determination, even if his voice was still frail. He turned and headed north. Ludlov watched him go and then addressed the initiate.
Come, Tolfmann.
Together they climbed the steps up to the mayor's front door and knocked. Soon after, the friendly old maid greeted them and led them both down the hallway. When they entered the study, they found the mayor at his desk, signing some papers with a large white quill. Seated in her chair by the fire again, Mistress Weiss was being tended to by a well-dressed man with long grey hair and an elaborate moustache that turned into an impressive set of sideburns somewhere along the way.
"Ah, witch hunters, you've returned,"
said the mayor as he looked up from his work.
"How good to see the two of you again."
Mayor Stolzerfuss,
Ludlov reacted with a curt nod. Then he turned to the fireplace. Tolfmann smiled, but Weiss looked away, biting away her pain as the grey-haired man dabbed the long, deep scratch wound on her arm with a cloth that was likely drenched in some sort of alcohol. Ludlov hadn't known she had also sustained wounds elsewhere beside her leg. She was in worse shape than he had estimated.
Dr. Grauwald, I presume?
Ludlov said, as he approached the man with remarkable facial hair.
Ah, you must be Master Ludlov,
the doctor replied, as he shook the witch-hunter's hand.
I'm pleased to meet you. Mistress Weiss has already told me quite a bit about you. All favourable, of course.
Ludlov smiled awkwardly, not quite sure how to respond.
Well, I would love to make your acquaintance, Doctor, but I fear I'm here on urgent business,
he said eventually.
I know about your business, Master Witch Hunter, and I understand all too well,
the doctor replied, as he rolled a fresh bandage around Mistress Weiss's arm.
What's happening to this village is simply beyond the pale. We've actually considered cancelling the Graunacht festivities.
Ludlov was baffled by the importance the doctor seemed to be placing on a rural folk tradition that was likely based on some near-heretical superstition. Either this Graunacht celebration was truly of phenomenal importance to the villagers for some reason, or they gravely underestimated their predicament. In either case, it troubled him, but he wanted to remain as diplomatic as possible.
Frankly, the festivities aren't too high on my list of priorities,
Ludlov said.
But I certainly understand why you would take that precaution.
Weiss raised her eyes towards him and studied his face.
I know you well enough to see that you've got a plan, Ludlov. Would you care to explain?
I wish I did have a plan, Mistress Weiss,
Ludlov admitted.
But unfortunately all I have is a list of reasons to head into the wildwood as quickly as possible.
The mayor dropped his quill and opened his mouth in a quiet gasp.
"Master Ludlov, you can't be serious,"
he uttered.
Are you certain?
Asked the doctor.
There's a thunderstorm brewing out there, and by my reckoning it's shaping up to be a big one.
Weiss gave Ludlov a sad but sympathetic look.
Ludlov, if this is about finding Brynjar and Svensson, I greatly appreciate it. But I must be honest, I hold little hope.
Ludlov sighed.
So do I, Weiss. It's not just about that, though.
"Well, what else could you possibly be looking for out there?"
the mayor asked.
The enemy, Mayor Stolzerfuss. The cult, if you remember. The ones who widowed your women and orphaned your children. The ones who destroyed the dog trade and turned your guardsman into a walking corpse.
What?
Weiss asked, sitting upright all of a sudden.
What are you talking about, Ludlov?
Roland, the guard who crossed the border before the dogs were slain. We found him in the inn. He's been turned into a remnant.
Ludlov turned to face the mayor.
That means that his dead body is now a tool for this cult. A mindless automaton, solely capable of destruction.
The only sound in the room was the crackling of burning wood in the fireplace as Ludlov's words sunk in. From outside came the first rumblings of thunder. The doctor was right about this storm, apparently.
Then you must destroy this thing.
The mayor said after a prolonged silence.
It's no longer Roland.
Tolfmann shook his head. It's a remnant, so we can't do that, he said.
Initiate Tolfmann is correct, Master Stolzefus,
Ludlov joined.
Until we find and slay the necromancer who did this, Roland will remain in this state. A necromancer?
Repeated Dr. Grauwald.
Yes, Doctor,
Ludlov confirmed.
These cultists must have a necromancer in their midst. And based on Mistress Weiss's research, we believe they have a psychomancer and a flesh mage as well.
Beyond any doubt. Although I would prefer not to discuss the finer details of my research outside of the Order.
The mayor was visibly annoyed at that.
Well, in any case, it's clear to me that Hübschdorf is in danger,
he said.
I'm glad we agree on that,
said Weiss.
And that's why we need you witch hunters here,
Stolzefus continued.
If Graunacht is still to be held, we'll need your protection, Master Ludlov.
Ludlov raised an eyebrow.
As I said, Graunacht doesn't interest me, Mayor. And you forget that I'm a witch hunter, not a bodyguard. My task, and soon Tolfmann's, is to seek out evil and destroy it.
But you just said yourself that your predecessors likely didn't survive,
countered the mayor.
I know that, Mayor,
Ludlov reacted, raising his voice.
Don't think I'm not afraid, I am. And for his sake, I would rather not take Tolfmann with me either. But I need him, and it seems only fair that I take a member of the Order along rather than a villager of Hübschdorf. They've suffered enough.
You make it sound so appealing, Master, Tolfmann quipped. But Ludlov didn't react.
But you just said yourself that you don't even have a plan, said the mayor. You have no idea what you're going to do once you cross that border. If you leave now, you'll just end up being the next missing case. And then, I fear, the Witch Hunter Order will simply give up on our little village, especially if there are no more dogs to buy either.
Ludlov was tempted to mention the litter he and Garner had found in the inn, but thought better of it. Somehow, he didn't want this meddlesome mayor to know about that just yet. Do you think you can handle it? Tolfmann asked carefully.
I've dealt with necromancy and flesh magic before, and no one is more equipped to handle a psychomancer than I am. What other option is there than to go out and risk it?
No one has ever returned alive, countered the mayor, ever since that border has been established.
Master Ludlov,
said the doctor. Even Mayor Stolzefus quieted down when the mild-mannered physician spoke up.
I believe you should go,
Dr. Grauwald said.
But know this. If you do not return, Hübschdorf will fall into despair. And there is only one option left to those in despair. We will risk it all. And we will march across that border with every able-bodied man in the village, and we will fight these vile sorcerers until we defeat them, or we all die.
As if to strengthen his words, the thunderstorm burst loose in earnest outside. Rain clattered onto the mayor's window as the clouds boomed like angry giants stomping on the world. Here, inside the mayor's study, the cozy fireplace felt like a safe refuge away from the violent temper of the weather outside.
When we have nothing left to lose, we Hübschdorfers will gladly give ourselves,
the doctor concluded. Ludlov nodded approvingly.
I like you, Dr. Strobel. If Tolfmann and I do survive, we should talk again when this is all over.
My wife makes an excellent roast,
replied the doctor with a smile.
This is madness,
the mayor cried out, throwing up his hands.
I forbid it! You can't go!
Ludlov crossed his arms and stared Stolzefus down.
You forbid it,
he repeated.
You're a local official presiding over a small community, and you haven't been very successful at protecting those under your care so far, have you, Mayor Stolzefus?
Do you honestly think you have any authority over a master of the Witch Hunter Order of 7 Peaks?
Anger briefly flared in the mayor's eyes, but then he lowered his gaze in defeat.
Very well,
he said, as he looked out of the window.
But certainly you should at least wait until this storm has passed, for your own sake.
Ludlov studied the corpulent man's features. He knew the mayor wasn't truly concerned about their safety, but he didn't have an inkling why he was so keen on keeping him and Tolfmann in the village. Then he cast a glance in Dr. Strovel's direction and saw the man's sincere concern.
So be it,
Ludlov agreed eventually.
We will remain here one more night, but tomorrow morning, Tolfmann and I set out, whatever the weather conditions may be.
Stolzefus settled in his chair and picked up his quill once more.
Have it your way, Master Ludlov. Just know that I was not in favor of your leaving here before Graunacht.
You are entitled to your opinion, Mayor Stolzefus,
Ludlov said. Then he turned to Tolfmann.
Come, Initiate. You've got to make ready.
A night of storm and stew. Ludlov and Tolfmann left the mayor's mansion and braved the storm. Cold rain flew into their faces, carried by a strong north wind, which seemed intent on resisting their every step in the direction of Garner's house. Lightning flashed and thunder cracked, and the world around them seemed steeped in a subtle greenish hue. The skulls and rib cages decorating the village reminded the witch hunter of damned souls in some demonic realm, weeping and bleeding in eternal despair. The two men trudged on through the muddy streets and finally reached their destination. The door was already open, and a raven-haired woman was awaiting them.
I saw you coming through the windows.
Fenna called out into the storm.
Come in quick, witch hunters.
Ludlov and Tolfmann gladly obeyed, and as soon as they were inside, Fenna closed the door.
I was just here to help Gardner out with dinner,
she said.
It's a good thing too, or you would have been left outside, poor sots.
Garner hasn't come home yet then?
Ludlov asked.
No, but I saw him before the storm broke. He was headed to the inn with the guards. They all looked a bit worried and grim, if you ask me. Do you have any idea what's going on, Master Ludlov?
I do,
Ludlov said.
But let that be a topic for later. Right now, Tolfmann and I would just like to dry up a bit.
Well, of course you do,
Fenna said.
And you might want to take off those muddy boots,
she added, with a look at the dirty floor the men had already left in their wake.
Yes, naturally. We apologize,
Tolfmann said. The fire was already burning as Fenna was busy making a stew. Ludlov and Tolfmann both relaxed in a nearby chair. Fenna had taken their coats and hung them on a coat hook to dry. Their boots stood neatly paired next to the front door. Kürbis was on the table, well out of the way of the fire and fast asleep. The squirrel was nowhere to be seen.
It's very kind of you to help out Garner the way you do, Ludlov told Fenna.
Oh, I don't mind at all.
she said, stirring the pot with a huge ladle. The stew smelled delicious. Ludlov detected the aromas of green vegetables, rosemary, and chicken meat.
Garn is good company.
Fenna continued.
And I need to get out of my own house from time to time, you know. I love Anna like my own sister, and Florian like a son, but...
She shrugged instead of finishing her sentence. Ludlov looked out of the window. The storm clouds had darkened the sky so much it almost looked like night outside. Just then, the door opened with a gust of cold wind, and Garner entered, dripping rain onto the floor. He quickly closed it again behind him. When Ludlov saw how Fenna's face lit up in that moment, he realized why she couldn't finish her sentence. Perhaps there was more than one ray of sunshine left in Hübschdorf.
Garner, you must be freezing, you poor thing.
She called out, leaving the ladle in the pot and hastening over to give the man a warm hug. He reacted a bit stiffly, then gave Fenna an awkward smile and moved to take off his armor as she returned to the stew pot. "I'm just glad I didn't attract the lightning with this helm, I can tell you," he said, as he loosened its leather strap and took it off. Then he turned towards Ludlov and Tolfmann. "I'm glad to find you here and not outside, gentlemen," he said, putting his helm on the armor rack.
Fenna was kind enough to grant us shelter while we awaited your arrival, Ludlov said.
Garner nodded, his mind clearly elsewhere. Victor and Moritz and I, we did what you asked us to do, Master Ludlov," he said. Ludlov cast a glance towards Fenna. He couldn't tell if she was following the conversation or not.
"Good work,"
he said. Garner joined them at the fire. Still wearing his boots, he left a trail of mud on the floor.
Take those off, Garner. You're making a mess.
Garner blushed, then quickly took off his boots. Fenna came over to grab them and set them down with Ludlov's and Tolfmann's.
Chicken stew,"
Garner said, as he approached the fire on his socks.
Aye, but no tasting until it's done.
Fenna said, returning from the door to take up her space at the stew pot once more. Garner remained standing near the fire, warming his hands, his otherworldly glance occasionally drifting in Fenna's general direction. Ludlov wondered what her energy looked like to him, and whether he perceived her in some unique way, since he obviously harbored feelings for her. And in the past few minutes, he had gleaned that she cared for him as well.
You don't need to tell me anything about your inquiries, Master Ludlov.
Fenna said, without looking up from her stew.
But I hope it's going well.
"I don't mind the question, but I'm afraid I have to be sparse in what I can divulge," Ludlov said.
Then he added,
"The time has come for Tolfmann and myself to enter the Wildwood, where we hope to bring an end to this evil."
Beyond the border?
Fenna asked, now turning towards him with a worried expression. Ludlov nodded.
"There is no other way."
"Just the two of you?" Garner asked, narrowing his pale eyes.
"Any man who joins us will be risking his life," Ludlov said. "There's a good chance that none of us will return."
And I was just looking forward to the day I got to wear my own witch hunter hat, Tolfmann lamented. Ludlov looked at the initiate, remembering the companions he had lost, and his heart sank.
"You're still an initiate, Tolfmann. As long as you're not ordained, you still have a choice. If you don't want to join me, I won't think less of you."
A wide range of different emotions appeared on Tolfmann's face in rapid succession. Relief, pride, anger, doubt, fear, and finally, determination. He looked Ludlov straight in the eye. "No, Master Ludlov. I really want that hat." Ludlov smiled. Garner turned to face them both. He looked like he had something on his mind. "You two shouldn't be going alone," he said. Ludlov had expected the enthusiastic fellow to say something like that. He didn't want to dampen his spirits or belittle his courage, but he couldn't face the prospect of another young man dying while serving under him.
Hübschdorf needs you, Garner. Fenner needs you. If Tolfmann and I do not return, I fear the evil will come here, uncloaked, unmasked, and in full force.
Garner frowned and was about to reply, but then Fenner laid a hand on his shoulder.
The witch hunter's right, Garner. You're needed here. More than you know.
Garner stiffened and just stood there awkwardly. Fenner smiled at him and then cast a quick glance at the pot.
All right, you men, the stew is nearly done.
She said.
Take a seat at the table and I'll feed you.
The four of them continued their conversation over dinner while the storm kept raging outside. Fenner repeatedly insisted that they should all eat enough stew to keep up their strength, while Tolfmann and Garner discussed the history of Hübschdorf's mysterious disappearances and the slaughtered animals. Ludlov mostly followed the conversation, but seldom spoke up. He found himself enjoying the rare opportunity to experience something resembling a normal family dinner. He had never known anything like that himself. His mother had died when he was still an infant, and he had been raised as an only child by a strict, distant father. All through his youth, he had eaten in silence, a pattern that had largely continued later in life. Even though he barely knew his hosts and his relationship with Tolfmann was too hierarchical to be called a friendship, he felt at home here in this house, and it warmed his heart. Lost in reminiscence, he found himself staring into nothingness, until Tolfmann's voice suddenly broke into his consciousness.
He would know, actually. Master Ludlov, what do you think?
He sounded concerned.
I don't know, Tolfmann. What do I think?
About Brynjar and Svensson. Do you think they're still alive?
Ludlov had no idea that the conversation had taken that turn, and felt a bit overwhelmed by the question. He searched his heart and found the truth. Raising his eyes to meet Tolfmann's, he spoke his mind.
I don't think they're alive anymore. In fact, I'm almost certain of it. But we have to look for them nonetheless, and avenge them. We owe them that.
Tolfmann's determination seemed only to grow. Then his expression softened, and he stared wistfully into the distance.
I like Brynjar a great deal,
the Initiate said then. Ludlov felt the pain in his voice penetrating his own heart.
I did too. Very much,
he said.
It's hard to accept we've lost him. He's only worn the hat for less than a year. And we Initiates, You were always teasing him about how much trouble he'd be having to keep his vow of celibacy.
He smiled weakly, his eyes moistening.
Ladies loved him. Tall, strong, but gentle. Seemed like such a waste for him never to marry.
Ludlov adopted Tolfmann's smile.
He was a kind soul. Always helpful, ever loyal.
I noticed you got along quite well with him, Tolfmann said.
Yes, that's true,
Ludlov said.
I always felt like he understood me.
Why did he call you Skald, Master?
Tolfmann asked. Garner was quiet and focused, and Fenner was clearly following their conversation in rapt attention. Ludlov had wondered about Brynjar's nickname for him as well, but he had never asked him about it.
I think Skald is a word from his home country. It might mean something like man or companion, maybe friend or brother.
Ludlov's heart sank. Suddenly he came to a realization. Brynjar had started to call him Skald as soon as he had discovered Ludlov's published writings. The word must have been a nickname for a writer of some sort. The memory stung bitterly, and he didn't have the heart to correct his probable mistake to Tolfmann.
"He might still be alive, goddess willing," Garner said. "He and his friends were witch hunters after all, weren't they? If anyone could survive out there, it had to be them, if you catch my meaning."
Ludlov appreciated the man's gentle optimism and wished he could share it, but he remained silent. After the dinner, Fenna poured the remainder of the stew in a smaller pot and closed it with a lid.
That's for Anna and the lad,
she explained with a smile. Garner offered to accompany her home. While the worst of the storm seemed to have passed, it was still raining hard, and the clouds hadn't quite given up on their rumblings yet. Fenna gratefully accepted his offer, and the two of them set out to brave the weather, leaving Ludlov and Tolfmann alone by the hearth fire. They were quiet, but Ludlov could tell there was something on Tolfmann's mind. He didn't have to wait long before the initiate voiced his concerns.
"I've always dreamed of doing real witch hunter work," he said. "I yearned to leave the library and get out into the field to face real evil and defeat it."
The fire crackled as he stared into it, as if he were hoping to find some form of wisdom in its flames.
"But now, I'm terrified."
"As am I, Tolfmann,"
Ludlov said.
"I don't look forward to this journey, and I wish we could take some witch hunter militiamen with us. Alas, there's no time for that. And in the end, a stealthy approach may be wiser."
"There's a reason why this evil has gathered precisely in the center point between those three demonic influences, I'm sure of it," Tolfmann said. "Perhaps it somehow increases their power," he went on. "They'll have three sorts of dark magicians in their midst, at least one for each of the three demonic disciplines of flesh magic, necromancy, and psychomancy."
"That seems likely,"
Ludlov agreed.
"but it's possible they didn't choose this location to increase their power, but rather to protect themselves."
"Protect themselves, Master?" Tolfmann asked. "Against what?"
"Well,"
Ludlov said,
"I've heard of so-called blind spots, places where the eye of a demon does not reach. The exact middle between these autarch realms could be a hiding place from those demons."
"Hiding from them?" Tolfmann reacted. "Why would evil cultists want to hide from demons? They worship them, don't they?"
"They do,"
Ludlov agreed.
"All evil magic is in some way granted by demonic influences. The only reason why a dark magic user would want to hide from autarchs in a blind spot is to keep using his powers while maintaining a low profile."
Tolfmann gave him a puzzled look.
"As you know, autarch demons are very jealous,"
Ludlov elaborated.
"They don't get along with anyone, not even with each other. They just have pawns, which they use to cause destruction. But they never genuinely care for those witches or necromancers who seek out their powers. Should any of those pawns try to rise above them, they wouldn't hesitate to withdraw all that power immediately and destroy them."
Before Tolfmann could react, a new insight came into Ludlov's mind, and he voiced it immediately.
"It's possible that these three types of magicians have congregated in this place because they want to keep their alliance with each other a secret to the demons. That way, they could avoid arousing suspicions that they might be plotting to rise above all three of them together."
"You are speaking of descending souls," Tolfmann said in a hushed voice, as if the very demons themselves were listening in.
"Indeed, I am,"
Ludlov said.
"As hard as it is for us to believe, there are some men who actually want to become demons. It's a rare and complicated process that, to my knowledge, no living being has actually ever completed but the theory exists.
I know it does, Tolfmann said. I've read about it. It's even been recorded that certain attempts have been made. For example, by that Urba-Classican mage, Plinius Novacula. Lord Adamir has been working on some academic studies on that topic, I think.
Yes, I know. He's been investigating the subject in great detail,
Ludlov said softly.
These cultists may be in league with some truly dark magicians if they deliberately chose this spot. I think Mistress Weiss will agree with me.
Tolfmann stared at him, his eyes wide with amazement.
In fact, I would like to look at her map again, if you don't mind.
Tolfmann got up, briefly left the room, and returned with Weiss's notebook. As soon as Ludlov and Tolfmann had unfolded the map and spread it out over the table, Garner came back in, soaking wet once more, but this time he only had a leather-hooded cloak to remove.
Good to have you with us, Garner,
Ludlov said.
Tolfmann and I were just about to discuss our strategy for tomorrow.
The three of them gathered around the table, and Ludlov pointed to the middle of the circles on the map.
Once Tolfmann and I head out into the woods tomorrow, Garner, I would like you and the guardsmen to keep an eye on the forest,
Ludlov said, pointing to an area on the map. Tolfmann cast a glance that reminded Ludlov of the fact that Garner couldn't see what he was indicating.
I'll be watching for any living beings that might be coming out of the trees, Master,
Garner said helpfully.
Yes, thank you,
Ludlov replied, somewhat embarrassed.
While Tolfmann and I head towards that border, I want some other men from the village to scout the areas directly west and east of Hübschdorf. There is still a small chance they might find one of my brethren there. I don't have much hope, but we need certainty.
Garner nodded.
Perhaps I could be among them, Master Ludlov,
he asked carefully.
After all, if your friends are still alive, I'd be the first to notice them, in a manner of speaking.
Ludlov considered this. It wasn't a bad idea.
Who will watch the village?
Tolfmann asked.
Oh, we'll find some volunteers easily enough,
Garner said.
Gunmar Feldsmane wouldn't mind some time away from his forge, I'm sure. And Otto, the stable boy, could join him, perhaps.
Excellent,
Ludlov said.
Well then, tomorrow we'll be off. Any more questions?
I'm ready as I'll ever be, Master,
Tolfmann said confidently. Garner, on the other hand, seemed uncharacteristically hesitant.
Well, if you don't mind my asking,
he began.
Do you have any pointers for me, so to speak? In case the other villagers and I should actually come face to face with evil, I mean. It's just that if evil is so cunning, how do I recognize it?
Ludlov smiled. He appreciated Garner's humility.
I think you'll know,
he said.
I might be wrong, but you seem like an intuitive man. And in a witch hunter's arsenal, Garner, intuition is second only to a strong, healthy relationship with the goddess. As for rapiers, pistols, and crossbows, those are mere tools of steel and wood.
I understand, Master Ludlov, I do,
Garner said.
But can't you get it wrong when you're tired and afraid? I'm only a blind man playing guard, you know, and I've never faced demons or wizards or anything of that sort.
Something changed in Tolfmann's expression as he listened to Garner, Ludlov noted. There was compassion in the initiate's eyes, mingled with regret.
You should start by acknowledging your fear, but not enslaving yourself to it,
Ludlov said.
Fear is not an ally to those in its grip. It can be a guide, but when you let it take over entirely, it turns rotten.
He smiled inwardly as he realized how much this conversation resembled the talks he used to have with Tolfmann during his training. The initiate seemed to agree. A faint smile appeared on his face as he crossed his arms and listened.
Good and evil can look very much alike,
Ludlov continued.
But there are 3 things that evil can't manage.
He took hold of his thumb, index finger, and middle finger one by one as he listed them up.
true creation, true peace, and true joy.
Garner remained quiet, listening very attentively.
Evil can't create,
Ludlov reiterated.
which is why undead can't procreate, and necromancers can't actually conjure up life, only undeath. As for true peace, well, as we all know, that's a rare experience. And if we ever do feel it, it's only because it was granted to us by the goddess. Restlessness, worry, and anxiety, they never come from her. Never.
And joy?
Garner asked.
Can't evil give you what you want? Why else would these cultists worship those demons in the first place?
Demons can give you things that give you pleasure, yes,
Ludlov said.
but joy is another feeling altogether. Joy is an abiding sense of well-being and gratitude. You can never feel that without the involvement of the goddess. All evil can do is try to deceive us with imitations of goodness.
But how do I see through those then?
Garner asked, still sounding worried.
Intuition, my friend. But you can't summon intuition. It just comes to you as a grace. You just have to be open to it. And I believe you are. So pray, follow your gut, and don't worry.
Garner nodded.
Thank you,
he said. Ludlov, Tolfmann, and Garner continued their conversations well into the night, until eventually they all agreed they should at least try to get a few hours of rest. As the hours passed, the storm calmed down to a mere downpour, until eventually even that ceased. Morning mist. Ludlov woke up early. Looking out of the window of his room, he found a world unexpectedly shrouded in white and grey, as a thick fog came quietly drifting from between the trees towards the village. Wispy tendrils of mist hovered above the ground, curling and twisting like the limbs of some terrible creature searching for victims. It set the perfect scene for a Graunacht celebration, he thought, even if it was still a week too early for that. Ludlov stretched and rolled his shoulders. An uninterrupted night's rest had left him stronger and more alert this morning than he had felt in a long time. He took his lantern and shoved some of his belongings from his nightstand into his satchel. He left the room with its remarkably comfortable bed and considered waking Tolfmann up. But when he passed by his room, the door was open, and his bed was empty. He could hear the initiate talking to Garner downstairs. When he arrived on the ground floor, the witch hunter saw that Garner had already refilled their canteens and packed some food for the three of them.
Master Ludlov, I've got something for you,
his host said, lifting up a leather backpack. Glancing in Tolfmann's direction, Ludlov noticed the initiate had received one as well. Members of the order didn't usually carry such things, but the witch hunter appreciated the offer and accepted it gratefully. He took some of the contents from his saddlebags along as well, including the smoke orb his friend Gustav had insisted on giving to him recently, and his flask of lamp oil. As usual, he also had a vial of sacred salt in the hip pocket of his long leather jerkin, where he decided to keep it. Breakfast consisted of some dried sausages and old cheese from the storage room. They wasted little time talking, and soon they were ready to seek out the guards. When they arrived at the guard tower, Moritz and Victor were already waiting for them there, and clearly they weren't alone. Emerging from the white backdrop of mist as they approached was a group of men from the village, dressed in leather doublets and woolen cloaks, carrying pitchforks and clubs as well as unlit torches. They all talked nervously, keeping their shoulders hunched in the cold morning air, thick with the scents of the autumn forest.
I hadn't expected so many of you,
Ludlov said, as he greeted the guards and the rest of the villagers.
"We want to do our part, Master Witch Hunter,"
said a tall man with long greasy hair and a drooping moustache in a deep, booming voice. By his leather apron, Ludlov surmised this had to be Gunmar the blacksmith.
"We'll keep watch here, night and day if we have to."
We appreciate that, Gunmar,
Ludlov said. Garner briefed the other men thoroughly, so Ludlov didn't have much to add, which he appreciated since he never enjoyed having to address too many people at once. Shortly after, everyone knew it was time to leave. Ludlov and Tolfmann departed Hübschdorf, followed closely by the guards and a troop of villagers. They stepped into a strange hazy world of mist, twisted branches and ruddy-colored foliage, where the trees loomed large and ominous like silent giants guarding some ancient treasure. Men's legs disappeared in the grey fade, as if they were wading through the ghostly remains of a long-dead river. The men behind Ludlov's back were talking in subdued voices as they slowly spread out to the east and west. Some of the villagers quickened their pace and came walking beside Ludlov and Tolfmann.
Are you really planning to pass the border with just the two of you?
Asked a man in a green woolen cloak and a pointed cap adorned with a pheasant feather. His rough-hewn face was peppered with black stubble. Ludlov noticed he also carried a longbow and a quiver of arrows on his shoulder.
You must be a hunter,
Ludlov said.
Aye, witch hunter. Mark's the name. Well met, Mark,
Ludlov replied with a nod.
And to answer your question, yes. Initiate Tolfmann and I will go alone. Why in the name of St. Engelbert would you do that?
Mark reacted, his words turning into puffs of steam rising from his mouth.
No one who's tried has ever come back. Precisely,
Ludlov said.
Which is why none of you should go. Ha! What? You think you'll survive just because you're a witch hunter? So were those two Antronians, you know. We know,
Ludlov said.
You know what we should do? Said Mark. We should all go together. What better time is there for us Hübschdorfers to put an end to all this than with you witch hunters by our side?
Ludlov shook his head, but the man wouldn't back down.
You've already seen you won't make it alone, and us villagers definitely won't. But together, we stand a chance,
he said, raising his voice. Tolfmann cast a glance at Ludlov, as if he wanted to speak up but thought better of it.
Brynjar and Svensson were unprepared and running from an armored maceling,
Ludlov said calmly.
That proved their downfall. Tolfmann and I know what we're doing.
Mark shook his head.
You don't know what you're going to face out there, witch hunter. None of us do, Mark,
Ludlov said.
I appreciate your offer, but as a witch hunter, it's my professional judgment that a stealthy approach is needed now, and not a full-scale attack. Not yet, anyway. Well,
the huntsman replied, somewhat subdued.
Have it your way, then. I hope you know what you're doing. You clearly don't know this man, do you?
Tolfmann reacted with unexpected fervor, startling even the gruff hunter.
This is Ludlov of Seven Peaks, he continued. He's a legend. They call him Ludlov the Pure because he alone can withstand the voice of temptation. He has fought and destroyed countless evils. He found the treasure of Boneyard Bay and even survived an autarch demon. What have you done that gives you the right to speak to him the way you do, Mark the huntsman from Hübschdorf?
Ludlov winced internally. He wanted to apologize to Mark on Tolfmann's behalf, but the huntsman nodded quietly and then beheld Ludlov with a wide-eyed gaze filled with awe and wonder.
Forgive me, I did not know,
he said in the soft, shame-filled voice of a freshly reprimanded boy. Ludlov held up a hand, wanting to react, but Mark simply left and made his way west to explore the wildwood in that direction. The few remaining men disappeared into the mist soon after, while Ludlov and Tolfmann continued their way north.
Thank you, Tolfmann,
Ludlov said softly when they were alone.
But that wasn't quite necessary.
The initiate shrugged. I can't stand it when a great man is not recognized, he said.
I am not a great man,
Ludlov responded resolutely.
The goddess is great, and she has granted me resistance to the voice of temptation. It was a gift. I didn't earn it. Furthermore, I'm not the one who found the treasure of Boneyard Bay. I was simply there. And as for the autarch, that was a dangerous and reckless decision, and it could have ended very differently.
Tolfmann didn't face his master, remaining careful to explore his surroundings. The goddess does not idly spread her gifts, master. If she chose you, I believe it was for a good reason. Ludlov remained quiet, thinking of Garner and his unique ability. Perhaps Tolfmann was right.
Thank you for listening to the 4th episode of the Hounds of Hübschdorf, a witch hunter tale. We hope you enjoyed these 3 heavy weather chapters and are ready to move into the wildwood with our main character Ludlov. This audiobook was made possible with the support of our loyal patrons, including Amy and Dallas Austin, Dustin Garner, Antonio Padula, Peter Strandkrone, Cody H., Jogoth Ur, Matt Patain, Cameron Brantley, Tony Ranico, Liam Gabriel, Mix and Match, Caitlin Bourgeois, Kadir Hussein, Yiji Dusht, Itamar Sturm, Gander, Osarion, Alu, Arno Teva, Ryan Stock, Jay, Rob Skinner, Tim the Gothic Horror Guy, Johnny White, and Sue Morrigan. We currently have 25 paying patrons, and we are really grateful for their support. After all, they motivate us to keep working on these stories and help us to keep paying for our editing software, original music, visuals, and all the things we need to make a video like this one 100% AI free. If you enjoyed this episode and you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, and ring that notification bell to get buzzed whenever a new video pops up. And since we're small, now's the time to comment. We try to respond to every comment on YouTube, and we are usually present with every live streaming to respond to your comments and questions in the chat. While you wait for that next premiere, don't forget to check out the channel of Bluefax and the Gothic Horror Guy. If you're on Podbean, please share the link and don't miss episode 5. The next chapter is called Into the Wildwood, a place you Witch Hunter fans probably already know. This episode will premiere next Friday. If you can't wait that long, you can purchase the extended edition of the entire story on Bandcamp or join us on Patreon in the Master Witch Hunter tier or higher. Or you can support us in other tiers from as little as $1 a month. That would be a mere $12 a year. It would mean the world to us, especially for my evening tea time, if it can get me a new Fallout 4 mug. Thank you for listening to the Hounds of Hübschdorf, and we hope you'll get back next week for episode 5.